Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so stoked to have Jerry Macnamara with me. Welcome, Jerry.
Lorraine, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for our conversation.
I am too. So tell me a little bit about your business and how you serve others.
Yeah, so my business is Proven Chaos, and I'm on a mission to positively impact 5 million people over the next 4 years. It was 5 years, but now we're year one into it. So now we're 4 years. And I don't know about you, Lorraine, but I've never met anyone who showed up to work and said, you know what, I really like to suck at work today. However, there are a lot of people that are ineffective in their roles, and it's not their fault. It's our fault as senior leaders when we don't create the clarity, the challenges, make sure that people have the tools, time, and training to be successful and actually feel cared about in their work day to day. And so what I do every day is advise high growth companies, typically companies that have made the places where you would clip out newspaper articles and send it to your mom, the best places to work, the Inc. 500, the Franchise 500, places like that, and help them create calm in their business again. So that's why I named my business Proven Chaos, because you've proven there's a marketplace, but you're in chaos because your people, your systems, or your process hasn't kept pace.
Yeah, in today's world, it's the culture. The culture's not right.
So true.
So you're out to positively impact 5 million people.
Yes.
In the next 4 years.
Next 4 years.
It's kind of cool. So what's more important, people or business?
Yeah. I think it's undecidedly, it is people 100%. And at the end of the day, business is an entity that's made up of people. And, I always hate, Lorraine, when people say, it's not personal, it's just a business decision. That person should not be a leader, because if you don't understand that decisions impact people, then you don't understand your role as a leader and how to care for people. And so, yes, people 100% all day long. Give me the right people, we'll create anything that's magical. Give me a great business that has the wrong people, you'll go home miserable every day.
Yeah, and that would be very sad. Very sad. I think about leaders and because that's what we all are, especially when, we either own a huge company, a small company. Mm-hmm. And I always define leadership for me is that I know I'm being a good leader when the people behind me are following me. I see people that, and if you don't see anybody following you, you're in big trouble. But, there's this leadership gap. It's the biggest threat. I feel today, sometimes we lack a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, they lack good leadership, great leadership, so when there is this gap and there's this threat, to the whole structure of leadership and good leadership, how do you fix that?
Yeah. So first off, we have to realize who gets promoted inside businesses. It's people who are great at doing the doing. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily great at leading people, right? And we see this in sales all the time. The great salesperson is promoted to sales manager and sales go down. People say, look, what happened? Why couldn't you make that happen? Well, it's because they're great at doing the doing. They haven't been skilled in leading people. And that's a completely different approach. And so when I think about what makes a successful organization, what makes a successful business, there's really 3 parts to it. One is you need great people, right? That's a high achieving individual. That's who we're trying to invite on the journey with us. The second piece that you need is a business model that you use to make decisions, how to guide things. What's the vision of the company? What are the values? How are we going to market? How are we going to be top of mind? How are we going to convert people into customers? How are we going to deliver the product or service, right? So we have to have a model to do that. And then the gap that falls in between is really on the leaders, because we're the glue that brings great people and their unique ability into this model of how we're going to serve our customers. So for me, there's really three pieces of being a great leader. First is the leader is an individual. So we have to think about ourselves. I don't know if you've had this situation in your career, Lorraine. I have, where the rules yesterday, like go do this, then you're doing that, and your boss comes in and says, no, don't do it that way, do it this way, right? It leads to confusion. I call it leadership quicksand. Confusion leads to frustration. Frustration leads to breakdown in relationships, a low trust, and then you have low performing teams. So as the individual, we have to create that predictable environment for our people to make engaged, autonomous, and agile decisions in pursuit of the company's goals. That's what we do as leaders. So I have to make promises and create and cultivate intentionally that environment where people show up and they're at their best, because I'm not worried about, what is Lorraine going to yell at me if I do it this way or that way? And I know exactly what I'm going to get. So we know that people, when their brain is at positive, it outperforms negative, neutral, and stress by 31%. So that's the first thing that you have to do. You have to show up consistently and predictably for your people. The second is we have to be good technicians. All the things that it takes to be a good leader, conflict resolution, communication, project management, right? So those are the things we have to teach people how to do. Just because you are great in a certain discipline, a great programmer, doesn't make you a great leader. So let's train people on the technical skills that are required. And then the third is leader is strategist. So how are we charting the path ahead? Someone has to have their head above the landscape of the business to make decisions for the company. And so when I think about companies that do really well, they fill that leadership gap with competent people and invest continually on the growth of their people.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I remember years ago, and this was kind of funny that we're talking about this. I was doing coaching. I was helping people with, I was doing business coaching. And interestingly enough, one of my friends who was in corporate was like marching right up the corporate ladder, just had gotten a new position. And he said, well, first he asked, do I know a good, executive leadership coach? So that was the first thing, which I was impressed, because the thing is it's true. Like, if I'm great at sales, right, that does not mean that if they make me sales manager, that I'm going to be amazingly great at leading people. And so I was impressed with this guy who wanted to, who was a friend of mine, who wanted to learn everything there was to do about being a good leader. And I think that's so important. And I think that's, I love when I hear that a couple companies that I know of around here, they do leadership training for their people, because I think that's probably the biggest gift that you can give someone when you give them a promotion is, hey, look, this is going to be all new to you. This is going to be something you've never done before.
That's right.
That's amazing.
I think,
so,
as I think about it, just to finish that thought, I've been lucky enough to run 5 businesses in 5 different industries: B2B, B2C, products, services, and right place, right time, all of those things, right? The biggest mistake that I made in my career was not having a business coach, a big business mentor, a business roundtable, because we're always better together. Like, why do we do this? We do this because whether I'm 2 feet ahead of you or 2 miles ahead of you, in my experience, I'm able to say, oh, Lorraine, hey, there's a little pothole there. Be careful, right? You might encounter that. And I think if people don't put their ego aside, allow them to come straight down and say, we're better together. Isn't it better for us to learn from each other instead of having to get my teeth bashed in at every turn and learn every lesson myself? My brother gave me my best piece of advice I've ever received. And my brother loved to party more than he loved to go to college. So he left college after a year and went into the Navy. And my brother and I were roommates. We shared a room growing up. And as he went to boot camp, he looked at me and he said, learn from my mistakes. I made them for you. And it was that moment of like, oh my God, I don't have to make my own mistakes. I just have to be highly aware of what's going on around me. And that has served me so well. So your friend, I'm sure, continues to be extremely successful because of that awareness. Hey, I can't see everywhere around me. And so let me put myself around people who have been there, done that, and can have conversations with them on how I can grow and develop as a leader.
Yeah, I marvel at you because you've run 5 businesses in 5 different industries, B2B, B2C, while making Inc. 500, Franchise 500, and Best Places to Work. So,
Yep.
how did you do it? Like, really, how did you do that?
Again, right place, right time, right people. So I was lucky in some of those cases, but I always believe that the best predictor of future success is past performance. So I think it comes back to having a model that you can use in thinking about how you can create a compelling company. Compelling companies always outperform. And my friend Sean Tomberlin, I had been recognized as an ultimate CEO, and we were out. And he asked me, he said, like, at that point in time, it was 4 companies. He said, how do you run 4 companies, 4 different, how did you do that? And I said, Sean, I'm not sure. Let me actually think about this. And that's really when I codified all of the things that I had done. It came second nature to me. Treating people well, creating clarity in roles, thinking about systems and process of how to make things go smoother as we go through this. And so now I'm trying to give that gift to everyone that I meet, right? How do you live a fulfilled life? Because I think that's the highest purpose, your life on your terms. And to make sure that you're treating people well, that you're solving an important, painful problem for the market, and being clear on who you solve it for. And so it's all there for you. You can stop and be thoughtful about it, but it's the 9 principles of personal performance. That's living a highly performing life. We should give that to our employees. Why would we not want our employees to live an amazing life, right? Why would we not operate our business in a model or a framework? Because that creates predictable, repeatable, scalable success, right? And then we have to invest in our leaders. So to me, those are the 3 things that I have done: is invest in my people, invest in great leadership, bring great leadership in some cases, and use a model to run the business.
So you mentioned earlier in your statement about, creating a compelling company. You talked about that. So how do you create a compelling company? Is that the 3 things you just said about, being kind to others? Is that
I think there's 3 ways that you can create a compelling company.
Okay.
And so the 3 ways. One is I can be really excited about the vision or the mission of the company that I'm about to join. So if I'm super excited about the environment and this new technology that's being brought onto the marketplace is a green technology, I might go, this is amazing. I love this business because of the impact that we're making. So alignment on the vision is the first one. The second is the values. The values are the operating system of a business. It's our agreement on how we're going to treat each other day by day. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be problems or challenges. It just means that here is our shared approach of how we're going to talk to each other, treat each other, and solve those problems. So I can show up to a business and not care about the vision of the company, not care about my role in the company, but love the people that I'm with because we treat each other so well, right? And then the third way you can create a compelling company is if I love sales, but I really, really, really love B2B SaaS sales, and that's the role that I fulfill, you can have someone who feels like they're in a compelling company. Now, here's the trick. If you get all 3 of them aligned, the people believe in the vision of the company, align with the values, and love the role that they fulfill, that's the rocket ship that you take people on. And so when I think about, the companies that I've run, that's really what you're trying to do. I'm amazed. I don't know how many companies you've encountered with this, but who don't have a vision statement. Like, how can you be inspired by a company that doesn't have a vision statement? Like, here's the impact that we want to go make. Because when I say this to people, it's like, I don't know. If I said to you, Lorraine, come join my company, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to love it. And the journey is going to be amazing. And you say, okay, cool. And I show up and I don't know, we're picking pennies out of a water fountain. And that's super exciting to me. But it's not compelling to you at all. You'd be like, what? This isn't what I signed up for. And so we have to be really clear about articulating our vision, our values, and then getting people into their unique ability where they feel they can do their best, most inspiring work.
Yeah, I remember I was hiring actually for my company, and I hired an agency to do this for me. And they go, well, I had to fill all these things. And one of the things they wanted was my vision and my values. And it was kind of fun. I actually I didn't really have I had little things, but they weren't really like a vision statement or, so, and it's so funny because I've been a part of making vision statements all my life, because especially, when you're in leadership at a church, they're changing their vision every 5 years, for Pete's sakes. But no, the bottom line is I did that, and it just, everything came together. It was like, I even felt like with that vision and those values, I attracted the right people.
100%. You have to put your stake in the ground. I say it differently. You have to have a handle on your business that people can grab onto. Yeah. You have to give them a reason to choose you, because they can take their talents anywhere. And so why are they going to choose Lorraine at BizGone Social and actually, make an impact with their time and energy? We're literally borrowing people's time and energy. That's why we pay them. And so if you don't give them a compelling reason to show up every day, someone else will. And so, it's not unusual, as a solopreneur, not to have a vision or values, because it's like, well, it's just me, right? Of course I'm doing those things. I think there is a lot of utility in actually sitting down and writing the company's vision and values, because then you can figure out how you're going to allocate resources on opportunities. Is this a good idea, or am I just chasing squirrels on this one? Right? And gives you a better, higher level of accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to switch gears here. This is the part of the show where we get a little real.
Yeah.
Tell me what you love about being in business for yourself.
Someone asked me why I went into business for myself the first time. And I said, well, because I was running companies and I took on the stress of figuring out the decisions I made were usually worked out pretty good. And if someone was paying me 6 figures, it was because they were making 7 figures, right? That's the only way that they can afford to pay 6 figures. And so I got tired of making other people money when I was doing the work and making decisions. So I thought, well, why not just go do this for myself? So for me, that was the first reason why I started my own business. And then as I've become more evolved in my entrepreneurial journey, it's the ability to make an impact, right? And so this is a company where, in 4 years, if I do this right, I will have finished my 2 books, The 9 Principles of Personal Performance and the Business Acceleration Model, which leaders will use to help run their company. And I will be training people on how to lead their companies better, that leadership gap, and do that in cohorts. That's how I'll positively impact 5 million people. So for the outset, it was the economic benefit of doing it. And then over time, it's what's the impact that I'm going to go make on the world? Because, I'm really clear, and most people are not clear on this, but I'm very clear that when people show up to my funeral, what I want them to say to my wife and kids. And that's how I live my life. So it's a life of impact.
I love that. I love that. So we all, a lot of people see owning a business as being very glamorous. Your friends think it's cool. It's like everybody goes, wow, that's good for you. But we both know that there are some struggles. What would you say in today's world is the biggest struggle of being a business owner?
Well, I think, my experience, Lorraine, is there's 3 stages of business, right? The first one is you open your LLC and you have a job, right? You're doing literally everything and you're trying to find the marketplace, you're trying to find the sales so that you can afford to hire your first person. And eventually you get to a place of either not scaling your business to a place where you can afford to have the resources to hire people, and you start to resent your business because you're doing it all. The second stage you get to is a small to medium-sized business where you have to systematize and process and implement technology because other people are doing the things that you used to do, except you now have to tell them how to do it. And then the third is scaling, right? When you get to typically about 5 million and you have some economic resources and you're trying to run this thing. I think the hardest stage is to get past the job phase. How do I know when to bring on my first employee? How can I get myself out of the roles that I don't like? For instance, I hate administration. I don't like administration. And so I wouldn't do it. And I don't know, I wouldn't bill my clients, Lorraine. People would say to me like, hey, can you send me a bill? Like it's been 2 months or 3 months. I'll get to it. Horrible experience, terrible process. And so I got myself an assistant. And she now handles all of the administrative stuff because Maria loves to do administration. She's super organized, detail-oriented. That's what floats her boat. And so I think that the first stage is the hardest one to get to. I saw a statistic the other day. There's 30.5 million businesses in the United States. Only 5% of them get past $1 million in sales. Right? Yeah. And so I think that's the hardest stage in business, of getting yourself out of a job and into a place where you actually have employees and you start to buy back some of your time and your freedom.
Yeah, and there's nothing like buying back that time. Really, totally. Seriously. I remember, like I said, I hired a lot of virtual assistants and stuff, and they just weren't working out. And then I figured, I need to hire somebody that's, going to match my, like I hired to my weaknesses. So I hired to my Colbier. And so it was really, it was actually a very fun process. I really love the girl who works for me. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think one of the things, just to finish that thought, one of the things that people do is what I call the high achievers trap. We think we have to do all the doing. We don't have to do all the doing. You have to resource the jobs to be done. So if you don't like doing it, okay, I have to pay someone to do that, and I buy back my time. Same thing personally as a entrepreneur. We have someone that cuts the lawn, that cleans our pool, that comes in and cleans our house, because I'm buying back my time. I have a 6-year-old and 11-year-old. I want to spend time with them. I don't enjoy cleaning the pool or doing the lawn. I love Kent, who does that for us, but I don't want to do it. And so the responsibility of an owner is to be profitable so that you can afford to buy back your time into the places where you don't enjoy doing that type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So one piece of advice that you could give someone, universal piece of advice, someone who may be just starting out, somebody who's seasoned, or somebody who's thinking about starting a business, what would that be?
I think the most important thing is to stay humble and curious. And so I'm a lifelong learner. You can't see it, but there are hundreds of books next to me. I've had some success in my life, and yet I still learn every single day. I read every single day. I spend 25 hours a week on calls with CEOs. I'm constantly learning. I'm documenting that. I'm sharing that. And so once you think you have it all figured out, I promise you that's when you're on your way on the downfall. And so stay humble and stay curious.
I love that. What would be your favorite book?
Favorite book, The Book of Joy. I used to recommend The 7 Habits and How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I still do. They're tremendous books. But I think if everyone just read The Book of Joy, which is a conversation between the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama about the pillars of joy and what it means to live a good life, I think the world would be a better place. Forget about business, forget about, personal. It's all one thing that we're doing. And so the more clear you can be on what do I really want to get out of life? What's the impact that I want to make? How do I want to treat people? Kind of puff your chest out and you walk a little bit taller and all those fun things. So the Book of Joy, favorite book.
I love that. If somebody resonated with you today, wants to get in touch with you, or how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the easiest place to come find me is at provenchaos.com. We're also very active on LinkedIn. That's the best place where my favorite platform to go hang out. And, if anyone is trying to scale their business, where they're that corporate refugee who is thinking about making the jump, something that I've been doing since November 2019 is office hours. And so we do it every Thursday from 2 to 3 o'clock Eastern time. And it's where senior leaders come together and we brainstorm solutions to problems based around experiences. And it's just a fun place to be. We've had a handful of people that have been coming almost every week. So that's a good place to come catch up too.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for being a great guest on my show. And until next week, everyone, I will see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.